I go over to the barracks, I go to this guy's room, and it's immaculate. And I go into the head, toilet looks good, shower looks good. And I look, and on the top of the towel display was like this foot-long fleshlight. So I fucking grab that thing, fucking water shoots out both ends of it. I'm like, oh, it's too late. I'm already committed. I'm like inspecting it, holding up to the light. So I'm like, hey, Marine, did you fill this thing? And he's like, yes, Sergeant. We had some fucking gangster corpsman. An Emirati helicopter got shot down. One of the pilots was still alive. And the casualty starts passing away during the flight. And these corpsmen, dude, like ripped this guy's stomach open. They're reaching up into his chest cavity and like pumping his heart to keep him alive. I'd go down to medical, and in the BAS, they had this bowl of condoms. I'd go in there and start rifling through the condoms. Doc Patton was like, First Sergeant, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm in these condoms right here and there's no magnums. I got some big dick motherfuckers in Bravo Company, and you guys aren't providing them the protection that they deserve. He's like, what? My name is Randall Parks. I served from 2001 to 2021 in the United States Marine Corps, and I retired as a first sergeant. Yeah, so I joined the Marine Corps right out of high school. I went to Paris High School, which is like, you know, like freaking cradle of civilization. I think I said that before on my other podcast, but yeah, like now that I live in like San Diego County, anytime I tell people like, oh, what high school did you go to? Torrey Pines or something like that? I'm like, no, I went to Paris High School. And they're like, anyway, yeah, so I joined the Marine Corps right out of high school, like literally probably a month after I graduated. I was in Marine Corps boot camp during September 11th. And then I didn't realize this until like a couple of years after I retired, but my whole time in the Marine Corps was during wartime. Like I was in boot camp during September 11th. So I knew peacetime, like as a recruit, right? And then I was on terminal leave during the fall of Afghanistan. And I don't think obviously I served during that time. I realized I was in during that time, but I never really thought about it that way. Like that my literally whole time in the Marine Corps was during wartime. And it's funny now, cause like when I like see younger Marines post stuff on social media and they're like walking around Lance Corporal with like just a shooting badge, like they don't even have a national defense or anything like that. That's how it was for me. Like when I checked into my first unit, I had 2 shooting badges and like slick, like no national defense or anything like that. So, yeah, so my first unit was at Bangor, Washington. I was an 0351 anti-tank assaultman. I went to security forces up in Bangor, Washington. It's a sub base up there. That was my first duty station. And then around my 4-year mark, I lap moved to 0451 parachute rigger, ended up at 1st Recon Battalion. I was there for 3 years, around 3 years. Did my first combat deployment there to Iraq in 05, 06. When MARSOC stood up, I went over there in November of 06. And I was there for 5 years at 1st MSOB, which is now 1st Marine Raider Battalion. Did 2 deployments over there to Afghanistan. My first deployment was with the 1st Bravo, or as we like to call Season 1 of MSOC Bravo. And then I was also on the 1st SOTF, Special Operations Task Force that deployed from MARSOC. Came back from that deployment in 2011, got orders to Parris Island to be a drill instructor. Was there from 2011 to 2014, and then I got orders to 2nd Recon Battalion on Camp Lejeune, and I was there from 2014 to 17. So originally when I got orders to 2nd Recon, I went up there to be the Paraloft Chief as a gunny or a gunnery sergeant. And I got selected for 1st sergeant at like my, what was that? Like around my 15-year mark off the 2015 promotion board. I got promoted to 1st sergeant. I would say like, as the company first sergeant, like more Marines and sailors are looking at you. More Marines and sailors are watching what you do, watching what you say. And even though I could still be me, I still had to change maybe my demeanor a little bit. But at the end of the day, like I was still me, especially, at first it was a little awkward because, yesterday I was a gunny and then now I'm a first sergeant and I know all these people. But I just stayed true to myself and, acted like myself and, moved up. I got paired up with a master sergeant, ops chief. We went through a couple company commanders. They were kind of rotating in and out, but we got a company commander right before we, chopped over to the MU to kind of get us stabilized. And, but when you pick up first sergeant, man, like nobody tells you like the level of shit that you're going to deal with, that your Marines are going to do both good and bad. So I guess, one thing that people enjoy about me is that I tell some good stories. So I think I'll just jump right into that. So my first week as a first sergeant, what do first sergeants do? Like, do I go to the fucking PX? Do I start lifing people out for haircuts and shit? What do I got to do? What do I do with my hands? So I started where every good first sergeant should start. Let me just start inspecting the barracks. So I always like Monday or whatever, field days on Thursday. And then, field day inspections Friday. I pull the team leaders and the platoon sergeants in on Monday and I'm like, hey guys, look, I'm going to go do the barracks on Friday morning. Like, make sure they're squared away. Like, I just want everything to be clean, but I'm not going to go in with like the white glove and like tear it apart. I don't want it to look like nobody lives there. Like, cause some first sergeants, like they want the barracks to look like nobody lives there. Like the Marines can have their shit out. Like they don't have to have their issued linen. Like they can have their own personal linen. I just want to make sure that they're living clean and that like if there's anything broken in the barracks, like a broken toilet or a broken sink, like I want to know about that shit. So just make sure it's like, it's good. And I think what they thought I was saying was like, hey, I'm going to give you a shot. Like, don't fuck this up. So I don't have to like elevate it to the next level. Right. Like, let me treat you guys like men and then hopefully you act like men. So I go over to the barracks, Friday morning, walking through, everything's clean, contrary to popular belief, like Recondos, they live pretty good. Like they live clean. They got a lot of gear. I don't know where they stuffed all that gear, but the rooms were clean. So I won't say his name, but so I go to this guy's room and it's immaculate. Looks clean, smells clean. Probably got some Fabuloso, on the ground and shit. And I go into the head and, toilet looks good. Shower looks good. No soap scum, And I look right in front. I don't know how I didn't notice when I first came in, but he had his like towel display, right? And on the top of the towel display was like this foot-long fleshlight. And I'm like, oh man, like I see it. And I can just tell, like this was a setup. Like the platoon sergeant, team leader were like, looking around, trying to see what the first sergeant's gonna do. And so I did what I thought I should do to maintain my rep, as a first sergeant. So I fucking grabbed that thing. And as soon as I grabbed the fleshlight, fucking water shoots out both ends of it. I'm like, oh, fuck. It's too late. I'm already committed. So I like grab it. I'm like inspecting it, like holding up to the light, like you would a rifle, And the guy, the Marine's room, he was kind of like one of those like nerdy Recondos. Like he was like the guy that you make the RTO because he can get like calm on the moon. And like he, he's into astrology and shit. Like he was kind of a skinny kid, but he was like strong, obviously, as a Recondo. So I'm like, hey, Marine, did you field day this thing? And he's like, yes, First Sergeant. And I'm like, all right. And I put it back. I'm like, are you going to bring it on deployment with you? And he's like, yes, First Sergeant. I'm like, all right. You going to share it with your team? And he's like, yeah, First Sergeant. And dude, the platoon sergeant and team leader were dying laughing. And I think they thought like they didn't know how I was going to react to something like that. Like, I think some first sergeants would have flew off the handle and like threw it across the room or like, told them to throw it in the trash or something. But, that's where the Marines live. And they're in there doing, what Marines do. So this guy, I'll mention him by his first name. While I was at 2nd Recon, like in Bravo Company, I just had the most phenomenal dudes. Like guys, most of them, a lot of the senior NCOs and staff NCOs were all like combat vets, multiple tour combat vets. They had all the quals. They were like free fall jump masters, JTACs, snipers, dive supervisors. Like they had it all. This one guy in particular, I love to highlight him. His name's Josh, and he was a staff sergeant at the time. But him and I were like the same age because he joined late in life. He was a Baltimore cop before he came in, so he was kind of like a rough dude. And Josh was unbeknownst. I guess I'd forgotten about it or whatever. But he was on duty one night. He's like the staff duty NCO for the battalion. And it was like a Friday night. I had just fallen asleep and my phone starts ringing and my wife like wakes me up. She's like, babe, your phone's ringing. And I look and it says, 2nd Recon, SDNCO. I'm like, fuck. So for those of you in the audience, like if you're a first sergeant and you see the duty NCO calling you on your phone, you're like, God damn it. Like what just happened? So I answer the phone and it's Josh on the other side of the phone. He's like, why, good evening, First Sergeant. How are you doing this evening? All like chipper. I'm like, who is this? And he's like, it's Staff Sergeant Josh. And I'm like, what? He's like, are you ready? I'm like, ready for what? He's like, the Brown Star Cluster. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. So Benhoff decided it'd be a great idea to go down to Surf City this evening and get fucking white girl wasted and get pulled over with a DUI with a concealed carry. Oh my God damn it. He's like, they got him held at Onslow County Sheriff. I'll meet you there. And he like hangs up on me. I'm like, dude, I didn't say I was going to go to Onslow County Sheriff. Like I was just going to leave his ass in the fucking drunk tank all weekend and then pick him up on Monday. Like you're not going to fuck up my weekend. I'm like, well, he's already on his way, so I'll just go there. So I drive over to Onslow County Sheriff. Josh is already there. And he's, got his duty belt on. He's all chipper and shit. I'm like, what the fuck are you so excited about? He's like, oh, this is great. He's like, will you let me go in there and get him out of the drunk tank? And I'm like, why? He's like, this totally brings me back to my cop days. I'm in love with this right now. I'm like, Josh, live your best life, dude. So I go in there to sign the paperwork, and I can hear him in the back. He's like, Jesus Christ, Benhoff, you smell like fucking piss. And I can hear Benhoff. He's like, they didn't let me use the bathroom, so I had to piss myself. He's like, God, you're so disgusting. So he brings him out, and I'm like, all right, take him back to the barracks. Like, don't fuck with him. He's like, oh, come on, First Sergeant. I gotta rough him up a little bit. I'm like, no. I was like, if you fuck with him, like, I'm gonna have a harder time holding him accountable on Monday. Like, we got NJPM. Like, I got him dead to rights, man. Like, he blew, over the limit. He's got charged with DUI. He's like, all right, fine. Like, totally just like deflated his whole night. Like, I don't know what he had planned, but he was gonna fuck this kid up. So yeah, we Monday comes around, and NJPM bust him from like, corporal to lance corporal. We didn't take any of his pay or anything like that, but he had like 30 days restriction. He hadn't been in trouble up to this point. So, we just took his rank and made him a lance corporal. So like a couple of days go by, and again, this is like the shit that no one tells you you're going to deal with as a first sergeant. And I'm like getting ready to do the morning report, and I'm like, hey, fuck is Benhoff? And nobody's seen him. And it's like, 8 o'clock, 8:30. And so I called down to the duty because obviously he should have checked in for like restriction, right? Because restriction check-in's like 6:30 or something. And they hadn't seen him either. I'm like, well, what the fuck? Like, when was anybody planning on telling me that this Marine hasn't checked in for restriction? So I get the Master Sergeant. I'm like, hey, let's go over to the barracks. Like, who knows what happened? Like, this dude's hanging from a fucking ceiling fan or something. And on the way out, I'm getting ready to walk out with the Master Sergeant. And Josh is like, First Sergeant, would you like me to attend? And I'm like, no. And I didn't think anything of it at the time, but now looking back on it, like, he knew what I was about to find over there. Like somehow he already knew. So we go over there, I do a door check, and I fling the door open, and I walk in, and Benhoff is laid out in his rack, butt-ass naked, just spread eagle on his rack. And I'm like, Benhoff! And he, like, wakes up. He's like, ah! You know, like a man scream, you know, like, ah! And he, like, stands up. He's butt-ass naked. He grabs a sheet, like, covers his dong, you know? And I'm like, Benhoff, what the fuck are you doing? And I look around, like, because I kind of honed in on him when I made entry into the barracks room, you know? But I didn't realize, started looking around, and this motherfucker's on restriction. And there's freaking beer bottles, and fucking happy tissues everywhere in his room. I'm like, Benhoff, what the fuck are you doing in here? And I look, he's got his nightstand, he's got his laptop open, you know, with fucking Costco-sized bottle of lube. I'm like, Jesus Christ, you're sitting here drinking and jerking the stomach out of yourself all weekend? Like, what the fuck? I'm like, shave your face and just go stand in front of the Sergeant Major's office. So I get over, I can walk into the Sergeant Major. I'm like, you're not going to believe this shit. And I tell him a story. And he's like, he just started laughing. He's like, dude, that's great. Like, kind of like Sergeant Major was reminiscing from like his time as a first sergeant, you know? But yeah, dude, so that's the kind of shit you deal with as a first sergeant. So yeah, we ended up going out on the 24th MEU. The Maritime Raid Force is like a combination of old school, like Battalion, Recon, and the Force Reconnaissance Platoon, all kind of merged into one. So, you know, life on ship as a first sergeant's pretty good, you know, like, you know, we get to eat the chief's mess, you know, my berthing area was basically the same as the way the boys lived. And, yeah, it was great. I had this great company commander, Major Joffrey Newton, capital G, from Texas. Dude's like 6'5", you know, good looking dude, freaking big old freaking banana hands. He was a Mustang officer, so he was enlisted first. Became an officer as like a staff sergeant, but he was like an old school like 90s Recondo. So he was fucking wild. Like he was a wild dude. Then became an officer. By this point, you know, he's a major. He had like 24 years in at the time. He had like 11 deployments, something like that. Like mostly combat deployments. And I just like tell, you know, a quick story about him because he was like a wild dude. So Joffrey Newton was like the best and worst officer I'd ever worked with. So he was the best because he loved the Marines and sailors. Like he loved them. And he took care of them. Like anything administratively, approving leave, approving awards, you know, getting their back, you know, whatever it was, he was there for them. And I really appreciated that about him. But he was also the worst commander I ever had because, you know, he had 11 deployments, man. Like he carried a lot of baggage with him, and he usually suppressed some of that baggage with booze. He never got violent or anything like that. And then like I'd had to like keep him out of trouble and shit because he would, regardless of the person's rank or if they were enlisted or officer, if you were a female, he called you baby. Like he'd be like, "Oh, baby," you know, whatever. Like he had this like twang about him. And I'm like, "Sir, you can't call the ensign baby. Like, and he was like, oh, she's sweet girl. You don't even know, you know? And because he was a good looking dude, you know, he always had like, you know, bitches fucking, you know, beehiving outside of his stateroom and shit. And I'd go up there to like meet with him. I'm like, hey, you know, beat it, you know, get out of here. But yeah, he was a great dude. Yeah. So I was in a VTC with the MU commander and then the commander for the task force, video teleconference. So think like a Zoom, a cheap Zoom. So the task force commander turns to the MU commander on the Zoom and is like, hey, do you guys have a jump capability? And you know, I'm in the meeting. I'm like, yeah. But as soon as he said that, I was like, So the MU commander looks at my commander looks at me because I ran the jump package for the jump teams. I was like, hell yeah, we do. And now I realize why he asked that question, because he saw us jumping on Djibouti and we were fucking tight, man. Like this jump team was sick. Like they jump out, they open up under canopy. They're like stacked, like, you know, 15 meters of dispersion. We got tandems in the mix. You know, everyone's landing within like 30 meters of each other. Like these dudes were locked on, man. It was great. So that's why he was asking that question. He already knew the fucking answer to that. Well, he's like, hey, you know, we're looking at having you guys free fall in to a certain spot, set up a landing zone, and we'll bring in 253s and land it. And it'll be like a forward refueling point. So basically we'll put out, you know, gas lines, and the Little Birds and the Blackhawks can come in, refuel, and then get back in the fight without having to go all the way back to the ship. So, dude, you know, being a free fall jump master for the last, you know, 10 years or plus, you know, I'm just fucking licking my lips, man. Like, oh, dude, this is going to be awesome. So, you know, I go tell the jump team leader. He doesn't believe me at first. He's like, yeah, right, we're not doing that. I'm like, yes, we are. Like, pack your shit, grab the parachutes. We're going into Djibouti. We're going to pack 2 rigs. We're going to pack 1 for the rehearsal, because the task force doesn't do anything unless they rehearse it. And then 1 for live. And then he realized, like, oh shit, this is real. So, dude, we go up on the flight deck. Mi-17 comes in, lands. We get on the back of that thing. Dude, everyone's like, whoa. I mean, even though, like, you know, we would jump in to set up a FARP, a forward area of refueling point. We were pumped. So we get in, you know, pack all the rigs, get ready to go. We're like literally jocking up for the rehearsal. I'm going to start to do jump master inspections, make sure the rigs are good. You know, we got our tablets loaded with all the map data and shit. And the task force like liaison guy came over and he's like, hey guys, like go ahead and stand down, like take off the rigs. The target that we're going after is moved faster than we anticipated. So we're just going to launch and go get him. And I'm like, fuck. So yeah, that was one of the highlights of the MU. So later on in the MU, and I'd like to throw out a shout out to my fucking corpsman. I love some corpsmen. And we had some fucking just gangster corpsmen on that deployment. Specifically with my ship was Doc Patton and Doc Knoll. And for those that don't know, like we have special amphibious reconnaissance corpsmen, which are basically 18 Deltas, like special forces medics. They go through the same medical training that the special forces medics go through. And they're basically like doctors, like freaking brain surgeons with mustaches and tattoos. And they're legit. So towards the end of the deployment, an Emirati helicopter got shot down, and the task force went out to do the recovery. And they recovered a couple bodies, but one of the pilots was still alive. And so they extracted him and put him on the bird. And our guys got tasked with flying into this said country and doing what's called a tail-to-tail transfer, where we land, they transfer the casualty over to us and start flying back to the ship. So our ship specifically had like a Roll 1 surgical capability. So basically like think like a hospital with like a surgeon and like all those capabilities. So the corpsman bring casualty on, still alive. The casualty starts, passing away essentially during the flight. And these corpsmen, dude, like rip this guy's stomach open. They're reaching up into his chest cavity and like pumping his heart to keep him alive. And like I tell you, like these guys are gangsters, right? So they land on the boat, bring him down in, they're like getting everything set up for surgery to save this Emirati pilot's life. And my corpsmen are basically telling the surgeon like what to do, because the surgeon was like freaking out apparently. And so they saved this person's life. Well, turns out this pilot was like the prince of UAE. And General Mattis, who was the SecDef at the time, had worked out a deal to get him, once he got him stabilized, to get him off the boat and get him to Germany. And so they flew him to Germany, and eventually he, from last I remember, he lived. And that incident, or that thing that happened, basically opened the door for the Abraham Accords, which basically brought like the Middle East and Israel kind of together because of what my corpsman did. And I fucking love those guys, man. And because it was like, a kind of a top secret thing at the time, a sensitive thing at the time, they never got credit for it. They never got like an award for it. So I regret not figuring out a way to make that happen for them. But man, they were awesome. But anyway, I'd go down to medical, and in the BAS, they had this like bowl of condoms on the front desk. And, I'd go down there, my corpsman would be, back there, whatever. And I'd go in there and start rifling through the condoms. And, the corpsman, I bet you they were thinking like, dude, what the fuck? Why is First Sergeant rifling through these condoms? Like, he's married. Like, why does he need condoms? And one time, Doc Patton was like, First Sergeant, what are you doing? Like, what are you looking for? I'm like, well, I mean, these condoms are here and there's no magnums. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, there's no magnums. I got some big dick motherfuckers in Bravo Company, and you guys aren't providing them the protection that they deserve. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, next time I come down here, magnums. It's like, by the way, literally, it turned into a thing. So every time I'd go down to medical, I'd be like, magnums. So yeah, while I was on that deployment, while I was in Africa, I was in Djibouti at the PX, and I get a call on my BlackBerry from my Sergeant Major back in Lejeune. And he's like, hey man, how's it going? I'm like, good, Sergeant Major, how you doing? He's like, hey dude, I got to talk to you. I'm like, what happened? Always thinking like, what happened? He's like, hey dude, you got orders. I'm like, oh, cool. Where am I going? He's like, well, you're going back to SoCal. I'm like, okay, where? Well, like San Diego County. And I'm like, why are you fucking with me? Where am I going? He's like, all right, like you're going, you got orders to MCRD San Diego. And I'm like, motherfucker. And I'm like, dude, why? Like, I just came off the depot. Like, I want to be in the fleet for a little bit. And he's like, hey man, like that's where you got orders. Like, feel free to call the monitor, but you wanted to go back to the West Coast. So MCRD San Diego's on the West Coast. I'm like, fuck. So I call the monitor and I'm like, it's like 3:00 in the morning, my time, and then like 8:00 or 9:00 his time. And I'm like, hey, Sergeant Major, this is First Sergeant Parks. You just gave me orders to MCRD San Diego. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, is there anywhere else I can go? Like infantry battalion or, another deployable unit there on Pendleton? And he's like, no, man, you're on deployment right now. He's like, you're considered a senior first sergeant in my eyes. You've got your deployment in. Now I'm going to send you to the depot. I need guys on the depot. I'm like, yeah, but I just came off the depot. Like, I don't really want to go there. He's like, look, stud, like either you take these orders or I'll find somewhere else for you to go, which is code for like, I'm going to send your ass to 29 Palms. I was like, all right, thank you, Sergeant Major. I'll take it. Roger that. So, of course, you know, I couldn't come back from deployment, have a little time to decompress, and then execute the orders. The orders were for like, you know, right after I got back. So my skipper, you know, let me go home advon. And then, you know, my wife surprised me and met me when I got off the bus, you know, from deployment, which is awesome. And then, you know, we flew out to San Diego, bought a house. Then I flew back, received the boys off the MEU, you know, fucking high-fived, and then started my trek across the country to what would end up being my last duty station. So I was a San Diego recruit, Parris Island drill instructor, and then first sergeant on MCRD San Diego. Yeah. So, you know, I was like, you know what? Fine. Like, it's not really where I want to go, but it gets me to the location that I want to be at in the event that I want to retire. So I was like, you know, I'll play the long game here. Like, totally fine. So I just accepted it. But like, I wasn't going to conform to like the depot bullshit, right? I'm first sergeant now. Like, I'm not a drill instructor. Yeah, I wear the funny hat, but like, that's not my role. So I was like, all right, fine. So I check in to my sergeant major, this guy, Sergeant Major Turner, great dude. We called him 10 Thumbs Turner because he had these like big old bear claw hands and shit. And he was a great dude. I really enjoyed working for him. But when I first check in, like I check in my alphas, I got like a low reg. And for, you know, guys that know the Marine Corps, like you don't check into the depot with a low reg, you know, like it's super tech. You need to shave your head. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So I check in and I'm like, hey, you know, good morning, Sergeant Major, you know, First Sergeant Parks, I'm checking in. And he's like, hey, welcome aboard. He's like, did you get a haircut? I was like, yeah, sure did. Sergeant Major, stud cuts, Oceanside. Like, can you believe it's still there? And he like looks at my hair, like looks at my ribbons and like my jump and dive. And he's like he immediately like gave up. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to fight this guy. He's like, all right, you know, welcome aboard, you know, fucking, you're going to India Company, like, go check in with your company commander. I'm like, all right, roger that. Have a good day, Sergeant Major, you know. So I leave Star Sergeant's office on my way over to India Company, and I'm walking up, you know, I got my little briefcase, you know, my little piss cover and alphas. So I look like fucking, you know, Gunny Highway walking up to the company, you know. And as I'm walking up to the company, I see this recruit sitting outside the company on a bench, on like a metal bench. And for those of you who don't know, like that metal bench, like you put recruits on there that are getting interviewed or kids that are like getting ready to go home because of whatever. So as I get closer, I see that he's got his little running shoes on, his Go Fasters, and they're taped, which is code for they took his running laces or running shoe laces away so he couldn't like hang himself. So he was like a suicide ideation recruit. So I walk up, you know, it's nice outside, you know, walking up, nice day, you know, and I can imagine he's sitting there just all sad and he just sees in his peripheral like this fucking arm sleeve with hash marks and rank come into his like peripheral view, and he looks up, he's like, good afternoon, sir. Like all sad as fuck. I'm like, what's up, recruit? How we doing? And he's like, this recruit's sad, sir. I'm like, why are we sad? I was like, recruit, look around. It's 73 degrees, sun's out. It's fucking nice. I was like, I just came from Djibouti, Africa. It's fucking hot as fuck. I was like, you're in sunny San Diego, man? Like, what's the problem? He's like, oh, this recruit wants to go home. I'm like, why? You miss home? You don't want to be a Marine? He was like, no, sir. I'm like, well, what's wrong? What's wrong with being here? He's like, the drill setters are mean to me, sir. I'm like, they are? I was like, they yell at you? He's like, yes, sir. He's like just sad, just wallowing in his fucking sadness. So I'm like, all right, recruit, you want me to tell you a secret? And he like his whole demeanor changed. He perks up. He's like, yes, sir. I'm like, like, so I lean down and he like leans in. I'm like, I don't really want to be here either. He's like, really, sir? I was like, but they're called orders, not choices, motherfucker. And I like slap him on the shoulder and just totally crushed him. He's like totally defeated. And right as soon as I do that, the company commander walks out and he's like, First Sergeant. I was like, sir, how's it going? So that was my like intro into coming to the depot as a first sergeant. So, your role as the first sergeant on the depot is the same as, in my opinion, your role is the same as any other company in the Marine Corps. Your job is to, advocate, for the Marines and look after their well-being and advise the commander and, advocate for your company. And then ultimately, like as the first sergeant, your job is to, maintain the culture of the company. So I walk in, sit down with the company commander, this guy, Captain Eckert, like phenomenal dude. And, but young, like kind of a young guy at the time. And he's like, all right, first of all, I want to get this off my chest real quick. Like, I just want to talk with you about something real quick. I'm like, oh, fuck, what the fuck is he going to tell me, And he's like, I know you surf and everything, but my absolute favorite movie of all time is Point Break. Do you like that movie? And I'm like, did we just become best friends? He's like, yep. So from that on, like, it was awesome. But yeah, like my role down there as a first sergeant is like, my true role is to look after the drill instructors, like making sure that they're training the recruits the right way, make sure that they're taken care of, because there is a whole litany of motherfuckers on the depot that take care of the recruit. And like in some companies, nobody takes care of the fucking drill instructor. So I made it my point, like to be like the first sergeant for the drill instructors, like the actual Marines, not the recruits. Now, obviously we take care of the recruits, but I got drill instructors for that, right? Like senior drill instructors, chief drill instructors, they run the schedule. They make sure the recruits go to medical. Like they do all those day-to-day things. So I made sure that like I took care of the hats. I remember seeing the drill instructors walking around. It's like third phase, meaning it's like we're about to graduate. And it's like, 2000 at night. And these drill instructors, there's a pack of them like going from squad bay to squad bay. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, go home. Like, why are you doing here? Like, these kids are about to graduate. You don't need you here. What are you doing? And I could tell like they didn't want to tell me like what they were doing. They were going around and all the thumbtacks that were on the cork boards in every squad bay, they were changing out all the thumbtacks to blue thumbtacks because 3rd Battalion is blue. And I'm like, so they tell me this, and I'm like, are you fucking horsecocking me right now? And they're like, I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I was like, wait, who told you to do this? And they would not tell me. I already knew who told them to do it. But I was like, yeah, get the fuck out of here. Go home. So like that kind of shit. Like, so when I first checked into India Company, I carried this like black book with me. And anytime I came into like a new situation, I always made it a point to like not make any changes for the first like week or 2 weeks or something like that. And I would just kind of walk around and observe. And anytime I saw something fucked up or something not right or whatever, I would just take a note. Now, obviously, if it was something real bad, I would correct it, but I would just take little notes. And I was just waiting for like an opportunity to just lay the hammer down. So from their perspective, the drill instructor's perspective, they see me coming. I got like low bloused boots, like gunny sleeves, and low reg haircut. They're like, who the fuck is this dude? So I was pretty chill. And then something happened. I don't remember what it was, but the company commander, we brought everyone in. He took all the officers, and I stayed with the enlisted. And I waited like a good 10-second awkward pause. And then I was like, all right, motherfuckers, like this is where you bitches listen to me and I fucking transmit. And I'm just like, bam, 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 just pull out my book and I'm going down the list. And And really what I was doing is I was trying to shift the culture of the company. And there were like 2 ringleaders in the company that were still keeping some of that dumb shit going along. And I was like, look, this is your one warning. Like, if you don't adjust, you don't get on board with my program, then you're gone. At the end of the cycle, I'll just send your ass to receiving and you can go fucking suck at life over there. And yeah, man, as soon as I got rid of those 2 guys, the company just shifted like immediately. And they started doing business the right way. Like, and I had phenomenal drill instructors in India company. But you know, it takes time to change culture. It takes time to shift things around. One, I didn't want to come down there to begin with, but since I'm here, I might as well jack up some recruits every now and then because I don't have anything else better to do because it's fun. So, yeah, I would do stupid shit, man. Let me think. I remember one time my company commander and I were like driving our little e-cart. You know, we had this little electric fucking golf cart, you know, going out to the PT field where the recruits were PTing. And, you know, you drive down the recruit highway and, you know, there's recruits everywhere. And whenever you drive by them, like within like, you know, 25 meters or whatever, they'll stop and be like, you know, good afternoon, gentlemen. And then you pass them and then they keep walking. Well, this fucking recruit was like in the way. And he was walking this way, but we were going this way, so we were coming up behind him. So I like, you know, I got this stupid little golf cart. I'm like, I stick my head out, you know, I got my little saucer cover on and I'm like, meep. And he turns around and I don't know why I said this, but those of you that are my age will appreciate this. I'm like, out of the way, Peck from Willow. And my company commander's like, dude, where do you come up with this shit? I was like, I don't know. It just hits me. You know, but outside of fucking with the recruits, I'd hook them up too, you know, like, in the beginning of the cycle, recruits will go through the chow line and they'll come up to the drill instructor to get inspected, like their chow inspected. So like some of the skinny recruits, they'll like have nothing on their tray and the senior drill instructor will usually be there and he'll send them back to go get more food. And then the fat kids will come up and of course their tray is overflowing and then the senior will blast his ass for being a fucking fat, disgusting thing. And I'll, you know, I would normally come up there and like join in on the inspecting of the chow, you know, and some recruit, you know, the recruit would come up and he had a little skinny recruit and he's got nothing on his tray. And I'd be like, recruit, where's all the chow? Go get, there's freaking steak on the line. Like, go get some fucking protein. He's like, this recruit's vegan. I'm like, yeah, right. I was like, you are not a freaking vegan, you disgusting thing. Go. And he would go and come back and or like, you know, like the skinny kid would come up and I'd be like, hey recruit, you been good this week? And he's like, yes, sir. I'm like, all right, go get a cookie. And the senior would look at me and I'd be like, go get a cookie, recruit. He's like, yes, sir. And I knew like he'd go get the cookie. I knew I was setting that kid up to get fucking murdered later on. Yeah, so I would do shit like that. The one thing that I'd like to highlight about, and this is, you know, 2017 to 2021, is, you know, a lot of people give like the younger generation a lot of shit, like that they're weak and that they, you know, are softer generation or whatever. And I thought that going down there too, as a first sergeant, seeing all these recruits come in, but what I realized, being the first sergeant, I get to see all 6 platoons. Like, so I kind of get to view recruit training, not as a drill instructor, but from like a 10,000 foot view, right? And what I realized that these kids, like that joined the Marine Corps, like they were starved for an alpha in their life. Like, yeah, obviously you have the kids that played sports and maybe they had a coach that was like a hard ass or whatever. But it's like for the majority of them, it's like they had never met a fucking man that pumps steel and eats fucking red meat and drinks whiskey. You know, like I felt like a lot of them, that was like they never had a role model, essentially. They never had a fucking alpha male role model. And my drill instructors were those guys to those kids. And you saw them, it was beauty to see once I recognized it. It was beautiful to see them come there as these like frail, weak, pimply faced fucking kids, American kids, and then leave there, well on their road to being a fucking savage. But a lot of them had the same upbringing that most of us enlisted folks had, broken homes, come from, kind of a poor side of America. And a lot of them were there, of course they wanted to serve their country, but they were probably also looking for an opportunity to change their life or to change the trajectory of their life. And I know for me, maybe I didn't think that way at the time, but now looking back on it, I joined the Marine Corps for an opportunity. I wanted something better for myself. I feel like a lot of these kids that join nowadays, they're just as strong. They're just as smart. They're looking for a role model and an opportunity. But, so my last cycle in India Company, we had the first transgender recruit, to ever go to Marine Corps boot camp. So for context, this recruit in particular was born female, transitioned to male, I guess was stabilized as a male for a certain period of time, and then decided to come down to Marine Corps recruit training. Initially, I think went to Fox Company and got hurt and then got dropped to India Company. So when we first picked up, we got the warno, hey, if this recruit gets hurt, that recruit's coming to you. And we're like, oh, fuck. But you know what? And so ultimately that happened, right? So the commanding general, the day that recruit came to us, the commanding general pulls the whole company into a conference room. And he walks in and he's like, all right, look. And I actually respected this a lot about him, about this general. He walks in and he's like, all right, look, guys, what's about to happen. You're going to get the transgender recruit coming to your company. I need to know right now if you have a problem with this. If you do, I will have you pulled out of the company and we'll put you in another company. No administrative action whatsoever. No harm, no foul. But I just need to know right now if you're going to have a problem with this, because we cannot fuck this up. There's a lot of eyes on this. It's going to be a bad thing for the Marine Corps if we jack this up. So he literally looked everyone in the face. And everyone rogered up. And he's like, okay, that was it. That was your get out of jail free card. If you fuck this up, I'm going to fuck you up. And I was like, damn. And it was cool to see the drill instructors' faces, because I don't think any of them have ever seen the business end of a general. They'd always seen the motivation end of the general, hey, how we doing, Marines? Hoorah, They'd never seen the business end, and they got introduced to the business end. So we get that recruit. And honestly, man, if you didn't know, you wouldn't know. You would have no clue. If you ran into that recruit, just looked like fucking ugly ass recruit like all the rest of them. And I was actually that recruit's experience was no different than any other recruit from that recruit's perspective and that recruit's platoon's perspective. Nothing was changed. In fact, I told, the senior drill instructor and the drill instructors that were on that team, hey, look, I don't give a fuck about this kid, about the circumstances surrounding this kid. You will treat that recruit like every other fucking recruit. If that recruit jacks something up, I expect you to slay his ass in the pit. If that recruit does well, I expect you to do like any other recruit. Doesn't matter. I don't fucking care. So they understood that. But from above the company level, it was a lot of buzz on this recruit, right? We had to go to a meeting every week. with the battalion commander because they had to brief the commandant every fucking week about the progress of this kid, this one recruit. And, my job was to kind of brief the physical, fitness of this particular recruit. And I'm like, all right, well, this recruit did, ran 22 minutes, did 13 pull-ups and, 100 crunches or whatever. And the battalion commander, he was kind of like this fucking like suck dick, like been passed over for lieutenant colonel a couple of times. And like, he saw this recruit, this transgender recruit as like his golden ticket to fucking pick up colonel, And he was like, oh, first of all, that's pretty good. And I'm like, well, fuck yeah, it's pretty good, sir. If I was getting injected with fucking tea, I'd be doing goddamn 60 fucking pull-ups in this bitch. And he's like, oh, well, first, sorry, that's not the right attitude. So we go through the cycle. That recruit, met the standard, graduated. It's Wednesday of grad week. Yeah, Wednesday of grad week. All the each platoon gives up like the guide and like a most improved recruit to go have breakfast with the regimental commander. And this recruit was chosen to be one of those kids, of course. So every cycle I pulled those kids in, the night before they went to have breakfast with the regimental commander. And I was like, all right, look, like, I want to know, was there anything that happened throughout the cycle that was like, illegal, unlawful, unethical, unprofessional that I need to be aware of? I'm not going to like get it. I'm not going to like sweep it under the rug or anything, but I just want to know so I can get ahead of it. So if you go tomorrow to the regimental commander and say something, I just want to know now, because he may ask that question. So I asked all the recruits, and of course they said no. I'm like, all right, telling you right now, one of you said, this is your one chance to tell me. If I find out that there was some shit that happened and you don't tell me, I'm gonna fuck you up. And they were like, all right, roger that. First sergeant, because they were Marines by this point. So they all laugh, they all leave, but this recruit in particular sits down. He's like, First Sergeant, I'd like to speak with you in private. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So obviously a lot of visibility on this recruit. Shuts the door. I'm like, sit down. What's up? And he was like, honestly, First Sergeant, I just wanted to tell you, like, obviously, I'm transgender, but this is the first time in my life that I've ever felt like I belong somewhere. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I didn't get treated any different than anybody else. And I just really appreciate that. I got treated like everybody else. And so for a moment, I kind of had some compassion for the kid. I don't agree with it. I don't think that we should have transgenders in the military just because of the medical burden and the non-deployable status that come with them. But for a moment, I had some compassion. But then, the first sergeant kicked in me, and I'm like, yeah, that's right. Smith, you get treated like shit, like everybody else, to include me. And he was like, I was like, beat it. He fucking left. So, if you're transgender, and you need to get like some kind of your surgery done, you can't deploy for a period of time. Same as if, like me, if I broke my damn leg, I'm not full duty. Like, I can't deploy. I'm not deployable. Now I don't know if that would happen to this kid because this kid was like post all that. So we, we go to graduate and I go out there and, senior drill centers, dismiss your platoons. And they all dismiss, turn around, return sword. And one of the head leaders of the depot, I won't mention his name or position, but, comes up to me and he's like, hey, I want to know how that, transgender recruit did, like your honest opinion. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, how do I answer this? Right. Like, that recruit did fine. met the standard. He graduated, and he's like, he wasn't going to take like the party line. Like he wanted the real truth about it. I'm like, now, sir, like, recruit met the standard. And he's like, no, First Sergeant, you fucking tell me, like, how that recruit did. And I was like, all right, fine, sir, fine. I was like, look, Recruit Smith, he's a fucking weak bitch. But he's not the weakest bitch that we got. He's like, God damn you, First Sergeant. I was like, no problem, sir, have a good day. Yeah, so, yeah, I don't ever know what happened to that kid. I think that kid was supposed to be artillery, but couldn't meet the combat arms fit PFD standards. So I think that kid ended up in like logistics or something. But yeah, wild time down there at that time. Yeah, so I left India Company after that cycle, and I went over to the Special Training Company, which is like all the broken kids on the depot. So all the broken recruits and all the broken new Marines that are like, finished the Crucible, got the Eagle of an Anchor, right? They're a Marine, but they're not able to go up to SOI because they're not physically, they're not full duty or whatever. And that was like a hard tour as a first sergeant, because you're dealing with all these recruits that are in different phases of life. Some kids that got hurt in forming, and then other kids that got hurt like right before the Crucible. So like there's varying levels of discipline, which means that there's all kinds of like issues that you're dealing with. Like I'd never done more NJPs than being the first sergeant for the Special Training Company. So yeah, not long after that, I was in zone for Sergeant Major, and I got selected at like my 19.5 year mark. Super pumped. That was kind of like my goal, like my career goal was to pin on Sergeant Major. So accomplished that goal of getting selected. So yeah, super pumped. Got, at the time I was, in business school at USC, attending the MBV program, the Masters in Business for Veterans program. And, literally I get a phone call from the monitor, and I'm in like corporate finance class. And I'm like, oh shit. Like on my phone, it says like $89.99 monitor. I'm like, oh shit. And it's like a Saturday at like, I don't know, 6 o'clock my time. So it was like 3 o'clock East Coast time on a Saturday. The monitor is working. And get on the phone with him. And he's like, hey man, congratulations on your selection, blah, blah, blah. I got you orders for Cobras and Hueys on Pendleton. Are you good with that? And I was like, yeah, totally good with that. And, I was like, when are they deploying? He's like, I think they're deploying within a year. I'm like, sweet. I'm like, where are they going? He's like, I think Japan. I'm like, cool. Never been to Japan. And he's like, all right, gotta go. And he like hangs up. And that was it. I was like, sweet. Cause I was thinking I was going to totally get screwed, cause that is basically what had happened to a lot of first sergeants and sergeant majors that I'd known. I was like, well, sweet. I guess it didn't happen to me. So I guess we're good. I get to stay in SoCal, everything's good. So Monday, I called the sergeant major of that unit. And this guy, actually, I served with at MSOC Bravo. He was a Recondo. His name is Kerry Wells, Sergeant Major Kerry Wells. And I hit him up. I'm like, hey, bro, I'm coming to replace you. He's like, oh, sweet, dude. That's great. When are you getting here? And I was like, I don't know, May or something like that. And this is like, for context, this is like December timeframe. And he's like, oh man, you need to get here in like January. Cause I'm going to Bridgeport to be the sergeant major up there. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'll just call the monitor and get my orders modded. I was like, I could be up there next week. I'm just down here in San Diego. So I call the monitor back, and, I get a hold of his like, assistant, doesn't answer, whatever. Finally get a hold of the monitor, and he's like, yeah, man, hey, look, I'm really sorry, but, I accidentally gave your orders for Cobras and Hueys to somebody else. Like, you're going to go to MWSS 372 or whatever. And I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck that is. I'm like, okay. I was like, what is that? And he's like, it's a Marine Wing Support Squadron. And I was like, do they deploy? And he's like, well, no, they're not deploying anymore. I'm like, well, fuck, that sucks. Sergeant Major, I don't want to do that. And he's like, look, man, I fucked this up. Like, give me a call back in 2 weeks and I'll make it right for you. I'll find you a spot. I was like, okay, I appreciate it. Sorry, I get it. Like, you're busy, you make mistakes, whatever. So I call him back like 2 weeks to the day, 5 o'clock in the morning, my time, 8 o'clock in the morning, his time. And we get into it, start talking, and eventually he just gives me the spiel like, hey, look, it's needs of the Marine Corps. Like, you either take these orders or like you can submit for retirement and get out. And I'm like, well, fuck, like that's not making it right. Like your tone's completely different. And I'm like, Sergeant Major, like, that's not going to work for me. Like I had already gone up to the unit and gotten like a tour of the unit just to like make sure like that I didn't want to go there. And he like pulls out this, I met with the Sergeant Major and he pulls out like the legal reports, like 2 pages long. They got all these problems. The battalion or the squadron commander, when I went to go meet him, he wouldn't even like lift his head up from the keyboard to like look at me in the face. And then the final straw was like, I'm like walking around the unit and there's like this nondescript door and above it, it says lactate room. And I'm like, hey man, like, is that like a lactate room? Lactate room? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, nah, man, I'm good. Like, I decided right then and there, like, dude, I'm not doing this. Like, I need to go to like a deployable unit. Like, I can't. I'm good. So back up to, talking with the monitor on the phone. And I'm like, yeah, man, like, that's not going to work. Like, I'm not going there. Like, you said you make it right. Like, you need to make it right. And he's like, well, you should just be grateful that I'm leaving you on the West Coast. And I was like, look, Sergeant Major, I'm not like trying to be a dick or anything, but I was staying on the West Coast regardless of what you did. And he's like, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, you're a new Sergeant Major. Like, you should just be grateful that I'm leaving you on the West Coast. And I'm like, yeah, I got it. But I was staying on the West Coast regardless of what you did. So like, either you give me what I want or I'm going to go like triple my income. Like, I'm halfway through business school at USC. Like, I have options. And he's like, yeah, submit your Appendix J. So I don't think I covered this part on the last episode, but so when you submit your retirement papers, they have 30 days to process that paperwork. And 30 days come and go. We're like 2 months into this. Still no word on my approved retirement. So I'm calling the monitor. I'm trying to get a hold of him. I'm sending him emails like, hey, are you going to approve my retirement? Like, because I can't do things. I can't like do my VA claim and start that whole process until he approves. I have a approved retirement date. So like, the dude's ghosting me for weeks and weeks. So for the first time in my career, I request mass to the commanding general of MCRD San Diego. I'm like, I'm fucking done with this shit. Like, I know if I go talk to the general who likes me, like, it's going to get sorted out real quick. So the regimental commander was a great guy. And he was like, look, will you give me an opportunity to handle this for you before it goes up to the general? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. That's part of the process. So he calls, does the 06 to 06 thing, says it's going to be approved, a week goes by, nothing. So finally, like, I'd had enough. So I call up some like corporal assistant or whatever answers the phone. And she's like, oh, he just stepped out for a meeting. I'm like, yeah, you realize you say that to me like every time that I've called. Like, he's just stepped out for a meeting. Like he's not that goddamn busy. I was like, look, I want you to write this down and give this note to him when he gets back. This is First Sergeant Parks, Parkes. If he does not approve my retirement by close of business today, I am driving the 1.2 miles away from my house to Congressman Darrell Iss's office. And I'm walking in there in my chucks. And I'm going to tell him that this is how the Marine Corps treats a 4-time combat veteran that's trying to retire. savvy? And she's like, yes, for Sergeant. I get a phone call back from this motherfucker like 20 minutes later. He's like, hey, First Sergeant, I just want to let you know your retirement's approved. I'm like, yeah, thanks. Fucking prick. So what he was doing is he was trying to get me as close to my retirement date as possible so that I would have no choice but to execute his bullshit orders. Like, because I wouldn't have enough time to adequately like transition out of the Marine Corps. And like, dude, like what the fuck? Like, I called your bluff. I'm going to retire. Like, let me fucking retire. Like, fuck off. So I do my retirement ceremony. It was awesome. Really meaningful to like my guys that I served with and my family and I. Awesome ceremony. I had a great time. And then, yeah, I jumped right into real estate. Basically like retired, finished business school, had my license for a year, but launched like a full-time business, like did really well. Also, it was a good time to be in real estate because like homes were just fucking moving left and right. So for context, like my first year in real estate, I did like $70,000 in gross commission income. And then my second year, I did like $700,000 in gross commission income. So like 10x'd my income from real estate like within a year. So transition's going well, living good, got the high life. Hit a couple bumps along the way, like that first big year where I like got my tax bill at the end of the year. Dude, like stroking a check to the IRS for 150 grand fucking sucks. But I had the money like set aside, but still like that was hard to do. Cause that's like my money that I fucking earned. So then, the market kind of takes a shift, kind of takes a dump and everything just stops. So my wife and I are both doing real estate like full time and we're both 1099 income earners. So what that means is that if I am not closing transactions, I'm making no money. So I made the typical mistake that you make when you get out of the military and you dramatically increase your income. I moderately increased my expenses. So when the income goes, like you got to do something. So I had enough reserves that I probably could just pay my bills and not work for a year and be totally fine. But my wife and I decided that basically like it probably wasn't a good idea that we were both 1099 income earners. Like I should probably go get a W-2 job in addition to what we're doing in real estate. So buddy of mine, Eric Newts, hooked me up and got me a referral to apply for a position with Hewlett Packard, to be the Navy account manager for all of their business in the Pacific. Sounds impressive, paid their total compensation was like $220,000 a year. So like pretty great opportunity, but I fucking hated it. So I get like 30 days into this job. I'm at like this event in Texas. It's like the whole public sector is at this event. So like 5,000 people from Hewlett Packard. And, it's one of those corporate like hurrah, hurrah motivation events, get the troops fired up for the fiscal year. So I go there, I'm sitting there, hanging out, and they kick it off. President of the public sector comes out, does his thing. But before we kick everything off, he's like, hey, I'd like to recognize a few people in the crowd. John, go ahead and stand up. Let's recognize John here. He's been at the company for 44 years. All this, right? And John stands up. He's like 60 pounds overweight. He's got fucking diabetes and shit. He's bald. And like the only reason he still has this job is to support his like 2 ex-wives or whatever. And dude, I just started like sweating like down my face. Like my next 40 years just flashed before my eyes. And I was like, dude, I got to get the fuck out of here, man. Like, so I get home, I tell my wife, and she's like, just give it a little bit longer, pays really well, and I gave it like another 6 months, and then I was just done, dude. Like I had fallen into this like corporate trap, and I felt like there was like no way out. Like, I felt like this was the end. Like I retired from the Marine Corps, and then I'm going to die. Like, in my older years. So one day we're on like a sales call, on one screen. It's like the worst call of the week. And then on the other screen on my projector, I'm like, or on my screen, I'm like doom scrolling LinkedIn, like just fucking trying to find another opportunity. Real estate really hadn't came back yet, still really slow. We were doing a couple things, but not really. And my buddy, Frank Simmons, posted this article about Anduril, this company called Anduril. I'm like, man, I never heard of that. So the call ends. I go into this like hour and a half long rabbit hole of all this like Anduril content. So Anduril is a defense products company that builds products that are software enabled. So very cutting edge. And as I dived into the company, I was like, I recognized that like everyone that works there believes in what they're doing. And they're making like sick fucking counter UAS products and weapons and all autonomous weapons and things. I'm like, dude, this place looks badass. Like, this is where I need to be. So I fire up the Trojan network and the veteran network, sending freaking Instagram messages and or LinkedIn messages, having conversations. And really what I was trying to do is vet out the company. Like, I wanted to make sure that this is where like I wanted to go next. Like, I didn't want to make the same mistake. HP treated me really well, like, and they did right by me. It just wasn't the right fit. So I have conversations. I'm putting in apps. I'm getting referrals from Frank. He's hooking me up with, because if you don't get like a referral, like it's not going to happen. So I get interviewed for a mission operations position, which is like saying like a overpaid ops chief type position. And I got passed after the first interview. They were like, yeah, we're going to pursue other candidates. I'm like, fuck. So at the time, I'm with Hewlett Packard in Hawaii for like a conference. And I ate some bad poke. And I caught the double dragon like real bad. Like just full blast into the toilet, full blast into the freaking shower. And right then I get the denial email from Anduril, and I'm like, So I, like look at my wounds, I'm like, all right, well, this is where I want to be. Like, I'm not going to give up. Like, fire the network back up. So I text a couple of the guys that were like helping me out, and I texted Frank and I was like, hey, dude, they passed on me for this position, but I'm going to apply for other positions. Like, thank you so much for your help. Like, I'm not going to give up. And he messaged me back and he's like, hey, dude, reach out to this guy. He is like a hiring manager for the electronic warfare team, and he's looking for a mission ops guy. His name is Taylor Williams, former Marine major, phenomenal dude. So I sent him a message on LinkedIn. Hey, Frank told me to reach out to you. My name is Randall, blah, blah, blah. Looking for a position. Would love to set up a time to speak with you. And he writes me back like immediately. And he's like, can you get on the phone in 5 minutes? I'm like, fucking A right, I can. So I get on the phone with him, talking with him, and about halfway through the conversation, he's like, hey man, look, you're the guy. I want you. You don't even need to apply for the position. I'm gonna Slack the recruiter with your resume that I got from Frank, and we'll get you fired back up into into the interview pipeline. You'll get a call from the recruiter. And after that, dude, it's on you. Like, if you don't do well in the interviews, like, sorry. I'm like, hey, no problem. Totally understand. So I interview and I get the job. So that was like a year and a half ago, man. And Anduril at the time was like, I was like employee like 2000 and some like low 2000s. And now it's like 6,000. And it's like, it's blown up. And we're doing like great stuff. And I love it. Like, it's great. I'm still doing the real estate stuff with my wife. She's kind of taking most of the reins, like the day to day. And then, I moonlight, in the morning, the afternoons, in between at lunch when I got time. But, yeah, so it actually worked out great, man. Like, I ended up in this like startup environment that's phenomenal. Like, it's aggressive. They want you to take risks and make decisions, get to 80% solutions, and the other 20%, like, we'll figure it out. Like, I think it's the best place that I could have landed for sure. So now, the roller coaster goes down and now the roller coaster is back up. So yeah, I love my boss. All the people on my team are great. Like, it's awesome. Last thing, I know this is the third one I've done, and I hope people get something out of these. I like telling stories that make guys laugh and reminisce about their time in the Marine Corps. In this episode, specifically from the first sergeant's perspective. And then I'm really passionate about like talking with guys about transition. The military doesn't do a great job of transitioning people out of the military. And ultimately, it's not their job to do that. It's your job as the individual. But, all the people that have like come up to me at like the airport or, at Pipes in Cardiff or wherever, and there's like, hey man, like, I really appreciate, the stuff that you put out and the podcasts you've done. Like, really means a lot to me. Man, that means a lot to me for you to say that. It means that, the stuff that I'm putting some effort into, is having an impact, a positive impact. And I think more veterans need to do that, like have more positive impact on our community, instead of like tearing everybody down all the time. So yeah, man, I'm glad I'm still able to, kind of be the first sergeant, but with longer hair.
Right on, Randall. It's been a pleasure sitting with you, man, for the third time, brother.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
7 for 5, brother.
All right.